Warning, this podcast contains violence, sexuality, gore, and other horrible and disturbing things. Listener discretion is advised. Also, the hosts of this venture are ignorant dipshits, so please do not take anything they say as fact. And enjoy the show.
Now, are you sitting comfortably? Good. Then we'll begin.
Today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be.
It is our basic human right to be fuck-up.
A second plane now has crashed into the other tower of the World Trade Center.
Putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
The defendant shall be incarcerated for the rest of her natural life with no possibility of parole.
You are not machines. You are not cattle. You are men.
We were somewhere around Barstow, on the edge of the desert, when the drugs began to take hold.
Hey, occultists. So this episode is a little bit different. We're trying out something new. So, as a perk for joining our Patreon and, joining the cult officially, we allow anybody in our flock to come on the podcast and record an episode of their own. Kind of one-on-one with one of the hosts. So here is the first version of that. And here is one of our patrons recording one of their own OVPod episodes. Praise Val. The cult is growing in power and influence. Hello and welcome to Occulte Veritatis podcast. I'm Ood Gallifrey, and in studio with us,
Magnus Lee.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be covering Tarrare.
Tarrare. Can you
yes.
In a little introduction, like what would you describe Tarrare as? Like, what would you hook somebody in the elevator with if you wanted them to hear the whole story?
Okay, he a man in France in the late 1700s who could eat pretty much anything you handed him, and that included like live animals and like scrap metal and just literally anything you could hand him off the street, he would eat it.
Okay, yeah, that's intriguing as fuck. Yeah. But first, we need a little bit of poison.
So, what's your poison?
Today, I'm drinking a Coca-Cola. I bought a 6-pack. I don't know why. I don't know. I wanted to drink a Coke today. I wonder. Some days I wonder if Coke is my actual preferred drink or if the marketing has gotten to me.
And I'm drinking a El Gozador Goodwood beer. It's ale aged in tequila barrel.
Oh, interesting. Like, can you taste any of the? I don't know if you'd be able to taste the tequila, but like I guess
you can. You can, just like a little bit.
Yeah, just a little kind of like edge to the drink, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's the beer like otherwise?
I don't really like beer, and I like this, so it's not really citrusy, but the little bit of tequila that you can taste in it does kind of cover the hops.
Okay, so it must be fairly light and crisp, kind of like it doesn't have like that super like bitterness and all that.
No, the can says made with malt, hops, water, yeast, lime peel, and orange peel.
Oh boy. Now I know it appeals to me because it's like the naturalistic fallacy, but like I really like things that are made with just like a list of like under 10 ingredients. And like
yeah,
I don't know. It appeals to me. It makes me think that like some old artesian is up in the attic like working on it,
Yeah, it says it was made in Kentucky.
Ooh, it might be. It might be some guy in a shed. Who knows?
Yeah, it might be.
Alrighty. So I'm gonna rate the Coke like a 3 out of 10. I'm gonna drink what I bought, but like. I don't know, it's a bit too sweet, but like, I mean, realistically, I smoke a lot of weed, so it's mostly like something to cure dry mouth that isn't water.
That's fair, yeah. I would think I would rate this a 9 out of 10, because I drink this a lot.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, so this is one of your go-tos, eh?
Yeah, it's also always on clearance for like a 4-pack for $2.99, so...
Oh, that's the same with my favorite beer. OVPod veterans will remember a beer early in the podcast called Jerkface 9000, and it came in a bright pink obnoxious can, and it's always on clearance, and it's the best. I love it. It's the best.
Sometimes the best beers are just clearance ones.
Yeah, I think that whole thing, like, one man's trash is another man's treasure, I think sometimes that's true.
After eating too much, have you ever felt like that dude from Alien whose stomach explodes?
What's the matter? The food ain't that bad.
Like somewhere in the meat and potatoes a baby alien snuck in? We all have. But, baby alien explosion aside, how much can the human stomach hold? It's tempting to equate your stomach to a balloon. Both start out small when empty, both get bigger when stuff goes in them, and yes, both have a breaking point. The difference? If you blow up a balloon, pressure and volume have a fixed relationship. As pressure goes up, so does volume. That relationship in the stomach, though, isn't necessarily so. That's because the state of the stomach is determined not only by what you put into it. Instead, it's mostly controlled by nerve inputs. Oh, and hormones, but it's harder to measure their effect on the gut. A resting empty stomach can hold 6.5 to just over 10 fluid ounces. That's not even a full can of Coke. That volume can more than double the instant you start eating, even if you're just salivating and thinking about eating. A brainstem reflex through the vagus nerve tells the stomach, "Incoming!" And as the food goes down the hatch, the stomach relaxes to make room. Unlike a balloon, the increase in pressure from food or liquid doesn't cause the stomach to relax and expand. It's all anticipatory, the result of your brain talking to the nerves in your stomach. This expansion isn't really at all like a balloon filling with air. It's more like an unfolding. The stomach is actually covered in folds, or rugae, that unfurl as the organ grows. But these folds have limits. A layer of nerve cells line the walls of your stomach. Once you've reached a point of too many sandwiches and too much cheese and beer, those nerves send a signal to your brain saying, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, hey, whoa, stop eating." So just how big can the stomach get? Well, keep in mind the stomach has an exit hatch, and it only takes about 10 to 15 minutes before all that food and drink begins to pass through it. So a better question might be, just how big can the stomach get in 10 to 15 minutes? Of course, it depends on a lot of factors: age, health, eating habits, hormones. But most importantly, if you listen to what your stomach is telling you. For most people, that, I ate too much feeling kicks in after your stomach contains between 16 and 50 fluid ounces. But the stomach can stretch over time, especially if you practice overeating and ignore your body's cries for help. For example, the 2017 Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Champ downed 72 hot dogs. That's about 2 gallons worth of food in his stomach. Simply put, your brain has the final say in how much you can eat. But what you're probably wondering is, can a perfectly healthy stomach explode from eating too much? There have only been 6 documented cases, ever. So pretty much no. The stomach is an amazing, wondrous thing we take for granted every day. Be honest, how often do you really listen to it? So take a minute to say thanks. Give your belly a nice pat. Because heck, it's always looking out for you.
Tarrare was born in rural France near Lyon. No one's exactly sure when he was born, but the date has been narrowed down to 1772. There's also no confirmation on whether or not Tarrare was his real name or just a nickname. And if it was just a nickname, no one knows what his real name was.
And that was still back in like feudalistic times in France and stuff like that, right?
His whole lifespan takes place about during the birth of America.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Americans listening, you should feel young as a nation, because and I don't know, I'm speaking from a place of like even younger because I'm from Canada. Our country's even younger, but like I don't know. Yeah. I think it's nice to remind people from America that like their nation's pretty young on the world stage. It's kind of like it's still like a giant experiment.
Yeah, right. By the time he was a teenager, he could eat a quarter of an ox, which was about his body weight, in a single day.
Christ.
Yeah, and he was constantly hungry, and like absolutely nothing could satisfy him. And he actually required so much food to like not be hungry anymore that his parents kicked him out because they couldn't afford to feed him.
This is pinging off so many like Marvel superhero vibes. Like,
oh, give it a minute.
Just off the top of my head, Matter Eater Lad and the Blob. Or like,
yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. So after he got kicked out, he traveled with a band of thieves and prostitutes and begged for food and money until eventually he was hired by a traveling charlatan. So he was basically running around like a traveling circus. And in this show, he would swallow things like corks, stones, a whole basket of apples, and even live animals.
Oh no! Like what kind of live animals?
Like, it's said that he had a preference for snake meat.
Oh, snakes? Oh no!
Yeah, like I said, you could hand him literally anything and he would eat it.
I don't like that. I think I dislike it more because snakes are like the shape of my intestines. Like my brain goes like, oh, they'll slither through, Wood. Oh, they're gonna get you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh
no. And in 1788, he was about 16. He left the traveling show to become a street performer in Paris. He had some success with this until one day when he swallowed something and experienced a severe intestinal blockage.
And this is after years of swallowing stuff, eh? You haven't had an issue before?
Yeah, something finally just like got stuck.
Jesus.
And the people in the crowd carried him over to a hospital, which they basically just gave him some like really strong laxatives and it fixed him. And he was grateful for the help and offered to demonstrate his act to his surgeon and eat the surgeon's watch and chain. And the surgeon apparently didn't have a sense of humor because he said that if he did, he'd cut open Tarrare and get them back.
I mean, I sort of get it. Like even in the even in the 1700s, like that dude has been to like some form of med school. Like he probably thinks of himself like quite the specialist, and this guy's like, "Hey, you want me to eat your watch?" Like,
yeah. Like the fun thing is, like at about that time, this guy was not a doctor; he was specifically a surgeon. Those were two different things.
Oh yeah, that was the whole like barber. That was the whole like where the barbershop poles came from. Like some barbers were like /dentist/surgeons as well.
The poles are red and white because the red was the blood from people that they helped, I guess.
Jeez, that's scary. That those were separate entities at one point. Medicine and surgery.
Yeah. It should be noted here that despite his diet, Tarrare was fairly slim and of average height, and at the age of 17, he only weighed 100 pounds.
I think calories in, calories out is pretty like scientifically based. So it leads me to believe his body must be just like not absorbing a lot of like what he's taking in.
I'm not sure entirely how true all of this is because again, this happened in like the 1700s. At least his like description of what people said he looked like, because there was no like way to record this that couldn't be exaggerated.
Yeah.
But they said he was described as having unusually soft hair with an abnormally wide mouth, and with his teeth were heavily stained, and on which the lips were almost invisible.
I want to know the guy they brought in to judge like that his hair was abnormally soft.
Right, like who came up and just like pet his hair and then went, all right, I don't want to look at you anymore.
I need somebody with very coarse hair, somebody with regular hair, and the subject in question.
Yeah. And it said that when he hadn't eaten, his skin would hang so loosely that he could wrap the folds of skin from his abdomen around his waist.
Oh my!
And yeah, and when he was full, his abdomen would distend like a huge balloon.
Like the stomach, like the stomach organ on the inside has to be like as distended as that. Like presumably the thing that's expanding, that's filling that space where the skin is puckering out, is the stomach.
Yeah.
Like it's only supposed to hold like a half gallon within it normally. Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it said that because of his diet, his body was very hot to the touch, and he was always sweating profusely. He constantly emitted.
Oh, this is more X-Men.
He constantly emitted he constantly emitted a foul body odor due to chronic indigestion that was described as to such a degree that he could not be endured within the distance of 20 paces.
I tell you, like this is like chapter 1 of an origin story. Like this is like.
I know, right?
This is like I'm expecting this dude to and one night he finally ate an entire cow in one sitting, and after being in the coma for 30 days, he was like, I don't know, the never-ending jaw. Like I don't.
Yeah. Balloon Man. People said that this smell would get noticeably worse after he'd eaten, and the way he's described after he would eat was his cheeks and eyes would be bloodshot, and a visible vapor would rise from his body, and he would become lethargic, during which time he would belch, and his jaw would move like he was swallowing.
Weird.
Which is just like a really weird image.
Yeah. And like the smell thing reminds me of stuff I've read about Abraham Lincoln as well. Like Lincoln was a fantastic politician, but some of his constituents, I guess they said that Lincoln was chronically constipated. So they thought that his shit was coming through the pores of his skin, because that's how badly he stunk, like, most of the time. And I wonder if that's just, like, the chemistry of some people. And I guess this guy gets it when he eats? Yeah.
Despite his large intake of food, he did not appear to get sick and vomit or gain any weight. And people described him as being just like a generally apathetic person, which I guess helps in his just like, yeah, whatever, I'll eat that.
Like, was he apathetic in like his energy level or like his agreeableness to try things?
Just like his temperament in general. He was just pretty mellow.
It seems like you would have to be pretty mellow for like, hey, you wanna eat my shoe? Oh, okay.
Yeah, dude, I'll eat your watch. So when the War of the First Coalition started, Tarrare joined the French Revolutionary Army, and while he was enlisted, he would carry out tasks and favors for his fellow soldiers in return for some of their rations. He would also scavenge in the dung heap for scraps.
In the dung heap?
Yeah.
What is he looking for?
At one point...
Like, is it like a pile of... Is he looking for corn? Like, what is he looking for?
Just anything that might have been tossed out, that he's just that hungry.
Right. That's part of this I keep on forgetting. Like I keep on remembering like maybe he's doing it as like a side act or a way to make money, but no, this guy has
he's just hungry.
Genuine hunger.
At one point, he collapsed from exhaustion and was admitted into the military hospital. There, he was granted quadruple rations, but it still wasn't enough to feed him.
And I worked in the Canadian military for about 6 years, and every summer I was on military rations for most of the summer because I worked in survival training, and like giving triple rations to one person. I don't know what if French Revolutionary France rations were anything comparable, but like 3 packs of rations should be enough for like a 180-pound dude to carry like a shitload of stuff over a long distance. And like
it was 4 rations.
And you got 4 times that amount.
Yeah.
Christ. And didn't gain weight, you're saying?
Yeah, no, he never retained any of it. And he would like scavenge in the garbage and the gutters and everything and eat other patients' food scraps. And he'd actually used to sneak into the apothecary's room to eat the shit in there.
The apothecary is like a smell nice guy?
No, it'd be like the medicine guy.
Oh wait. I have a memory of
like
there's an apothecary shop in Final Fantasy. Okay, I sort of know what they sell.
Yeah.
Like herbs and healing shit and like medicines of their day, right?
Yeah. But like even after all this, he seemed to deteriorate, like he was just starving. So military surgeons who were just really eager to figure out what the fuck was wrong with him, they ordered him to stay in the military hospital to take part in physiological experiments.
Oh.
And these experiments were designed by, I'm going to say these names and I'm sorry because I'm sure they're pronounced wrong.
I'm very Irish and I fucked up every Irish name in the Irish episode, so don't even worry.
Fair enough. They were designed by Dr. Corville, George Didier, and Baron Percy, who was surgeon-in-chief of the hospital. Corville and Percy began by testing Tarrare's capacity for food. 15 laborers, he ate 15 laborers worth of meals, which was 2 large meat pies, plates of grease and salt, and 4 gallons of milk, and that was like each meal was that. And he ate 15 of those.
15? Christ. Like, again, I was a dumbass college kid. I did something... Okay, there's something called the Gallon Challenge for anybody who hasn't gone to the dark, hasn't wasted their life doing this shit, but you drink a gallon of milk and you see if you can keep it down, and 95% of people can't keep down a gallon of milk. And he ate so much more than that.
Yeah. He consumed all of this and then immediately passed out.
Jesus.
Again, Corville noted that he just kind of like, his belly just kind of swelled up like a balloon. And this next part's kind of gross, but they then presented him with a live cat. And he like tore open the cat with his teeth.
Jesus.
And drank its blood, and then ate the entire cat, not including the bones. Before just like throwing up the fur and the skin.
There's a lot of stuff. I can understand drinking milk and drinking rations. Like, that stuff is ready to chew and follow.
Yeah.
But like, humans don't really have like the crushy, like bone shattery teeth we need to like just consume a live animal whole.
Yeah, like the hospital staff offered a variety of other animals, which included snakes, lizards, and puppies. He also once swallowed an eel whole, like a whole eel, which, like you said, he crushed its head in his teeth.
Jesus.
And then he ate it. And then there's a quote from Baron Percy that was just, the dogs and cats fled in terror at his aspect, as if they had anticipated the kind of fate he was preparing for them.
I mean, I wonder if on some level those animals like saw him like as a little more predatory, and like since he was so goddamn hungry, maybe he was putting out those vibes.
Yeah, right. So after several months as an experiment, military authorities began pressing for Tarrare's return to service. Dr. Corville wished to continue his experiments, and he approached the General Beauharnais, with a suggestion to use Tarrare's unusual ability for military gain. So they put a document into a box and then fed that box to Tarrare. And then 2 days later, they got it back with the note still in legible condition.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess, like, if they're paying him and he's like, oh, fine, like, I'll be your gastrointestinal mule, yeah.
Yeah. Corville proposed Tarrare could serve as a courier, carrying documents through enemy lines with no chance of them being found if he were searched. So Tarrare was called to demonstrate his abilities before a gathering of commanders, and when, obviously it was success, he was rewarded with 30 pounds of raw bull's lungs and liver, which he immediately ate in front of the commanders.
Like, is this guy just like Can he button up his shirt and put on pants? Like, is he good on all those fronts?
I don't know.
Or is he just like a feral little beast in the corner
know.
just chewing on all this?
Like, as far as I'm aware, he does have clothes that he wears. I just don't know, like, if they stay that way after he's eaten.
If I try and take like one of those pieces of meat away from him, like, would he snarl at me?
Unclear. I think it depends on like when you took it away from him. Like if he was in the middle of eating it, maybe. So Tarrare was officially employed as a spy, and though the general was convinced of his abilities, he was concerned about Tarrare's mental state and didn't quite feel that he could trust Tarrare with something so important just yet.
I can't blame the general. He's like, we're going to give you this immense amount of meat as a reward for your work. I'm just going to sit here and eat it in front of you.
I just watched this guy eat so much raw meat and just like walk away from it. I don't know what's going on up there, but I'm not sure I want to know.
There had to be some conversation at some point that was just like, okay, so he will be able to eat the notes and like transport the secrets, but like, he ate a fucking cat. Did you hear about?
Did you see him eat that note?
Like he ripped right into it like it was nothing.
So, he wasn't sure he could trust him with important information yet, so the general sent him to carry a message to a French colonel imprisoned by the Prussians. And Tarrare was told that the documents were of great military significance, but really it was just the general sending a note that essentially read, "Did you get this note? Send anything on the Prussians if you have anything." So, Tarrare crossed Prussian lines under cover of night, disguised as a German peasant. However, because he couldn't speak German, local residents quickly found him out and alerted the authorities.
Oh no!
Like, they couldn't at least just like, alright, here's how you say hello. No, I'm fine. Where's the bathroom?
As soon as the locals like, hey, I haven't seen you around here before. Like, where do you come from? Hello, bathroom.
Yeah. My pants are broccoli. So he was captured, and obviously a strip search yielded nothing. So he was whipped by Prussian soldiers to get their information. He still gave them nothing and was brought before the local Prussian commander. And again, he refused to talk and was imprisoned.
I've eaten too much and had gut pain, and like the amount of gut pain this guy must have had to deal with, like on a regular basis.
Just constantly, yeah, right. After being in captivity for 24 hours, Tarrare finally broke and explained the scheme, which is that he would eat something and then deliver the note. And so he was chained to a latrine until the wooden box was retrieved. The Prussian commander was furious to read the useless note, but it should be noted that some sources suggest that he never actually found it because Tarrare re-swallowed the box.
And he would too. He would probably be like, nothing else to eat, may as well eat this box.
Yeah, fuck. Right. And either way, Tarrare was taken to be hung, but at the last minute, the commander relented, and Tarrare was beaten and dropped back on the other side of French lines. Boy. So after this incident, Tarrare was keen to leave the military, and he returned to the hospital, willing to take on any possible cure for his appetite, because, at this point, I think I'd be tired of it too.
No kidding.
And Baron Percy treated him with laudanum, wine, vinegar, and tobacco pills, which were all unsuccessful. He then tried feeding Tarrare an obscene amount of soft-boiled eggs, but this also failed. I'm not entirely sure what the logic was behind soft-boiled eggs.
Me neither. I mean, are they... I don't know what he was thinking either. Like, the doctor must have heard tales of him eating, all this. He's like, you know what? You know what I bet he hasn't eaten a shitload of? Eggs. Yeah.
Soft-boiled eggs, yeah. But also, at this point, what else can you feed him?
Yeah, maybe this is the doctor just, throwing the kitchen sink at it. I don't know. Let's try this.
I don't know, I have so many eggs in my fridge. Let's just... Yeah, But and the eggs also didn't work, and neither did trying to keep him on any kind of controlled diet. Tarrare would sneak out of the hospital to scavenge for scraps outside of the butcher shops, and he would fight dogs in alleys for dead animals in the gutter.
I'm just imagining walking home from the bar and seeing this dude fighting over some meat with a dog.
He's on all fours and he's just growling. He's got a pizza in his
100%.
mouth.
If I was a betting man, he'd be biting it with his teeth, growling right with the dog.
Yeah. He was also caught several times in the hospital drinking from patients undergoing bloodletting.
Oh. That's not good.
They would be getting bled, and he would just be underneath them, letting the blood fall into his mouth.
Slurpee. That's horrible.
Yeah. They actually even caught him trying to eat bodies in the morgue.
No. Fuck. I know somebody that works in a mental hospital, and some of the patients he looks after are addicted to drinking water. And they drink so much of it, their body chemistry becomes unbalanced, and it can be really dangerous. I wonder if undiagnosed, this guy had a similar form, just this strong compulsion to eat that cannot be solved by medicine at his time. He couldn't take OCD pills to help him out or anything like that.
Yeah, a lot of the doctors at the hospital believed that Tarrare was severely mentally ill and pressed for him to be sent to an asylum instead. But Percy refused, and he wanted to continue his experiments, so Tarrare stayed. However, in 1794, a 14-month-old child disappeared from the hospital, and Tarrare was immediately suspected and subsequently chased from the hospital grounds by the staff.
They didn't prove it, though.
They couldn't prove it, but it was.
I mean, if he ate a cat,
it was a lot of. Yeah, a lot of the evidence was kind of pointing to the fact that he did.
I mean, he's eaten a lot of live animals. He's eaten corpses before. He's been to war. He's arguably mentally ill. I don't know if I'd put it past him to eat like a human child.
Yeah, and Percy was either unable or unwilling to defend him, so he just disappeared.
That was hard to overlook that.
Yeah, and 4 years later, in 1798, a Monsieur Tessier of Versailles got in contact with Baron Percy, letting him know that a patient of theirs wished to see him, which was Tarrare. And by the time Percy got there, Tarrare was bedridden and weak, and he told the Baron that he had swallowed a golden fork 2 years ago. Tarrare believed that it was lodged inside of him, and that was the cause of his ailment. He called Percy, hoping it could be removed. But Percy honestly took one look at him and it was just nah, dude, you just have severe tuberculosis.
Yeah, that's the one thing he couldn't see. Yeah.
Yeah, and then a month later, Tarrare began to experience exudative diarrhea and died shortly after, at the age of 26.
Is that in lines with tuberculosis symptoms?
I don't remember. I don't think so. That may have just been something that because it kind of sounds like he may also have had a very minor case of dysentery, just a little bit. Yeah, but also diarrhea was something that he's always had an issue with, and I think the degree to which he had it mixed with how weak that kind of TB can make you, probably just
it could have been just a complication, just that dehydrated him a bit too much, and he couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah, so he was only 26.
Oh, Christ. And look at all the shenanigans he got up to in his short life.
I know. And his corpse rotted pretty quickly, and the surgeons at the Versailles Hospital refused to dissect it, except for Tessier, who was curious as to how Tarrare differed, internally, what was going on in there. He also wanted to see the fork lodged inside of the body and if it had any sort of effect on the cause of his death. At the autopsy, it was found that Tarrare's gullet was abnormally wide and provided a view straight into his stomach through a broad canal.
Oh, so it's like the mouth of his throat was a lot wider than you would expect, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you could see just straight down into his stomach. his body was also found to be full of pus, and his liver and gallbladder were abnormally large. His stomach was absolutely enormous, and it was like covered in ulcers. It filled most of his abdominal cavity. Also, the fork was never found.
I bet you could dissolve gold in stomach acid.
or maybe he like just shit it out during the diarrhea.
All the other stuff he's eating, this doesn't seem like a guy who'd have time to like sift through his poo and take like an inventory. Or maybe he does.
Right. Maybe he does. So the cause of his behavior is not really known. There are other documented cases of similar behavior from the period, and but none of the subjects aside from Tarrare were autopsied, and as far as we know, there were no modern cases quite like this. Sometimes it does actually happen in some people, that not quite to this degree, but they'll just be like constantly hungry, and so it's called Tarrare's disease.
Oh man!
Because it's nothing like quite to this extent.
I mean, like, competitive eaters have to train for months and have to like stretch their stomach little by little by binge eating and all that, like just to prepare and
yeah, and he was just like that.
Normally, a human can stomach, on average, about 1 liter of food before the nausea reflex kicks in, signaling us to stop eating. But competitive eaters train their bodies to ignore this reflex. As a result, their stomachs are capable of holding down 4+ liters of food, a capacity more than 4 times greater than the average stomach.
When you eat so many hot dogs, your stomach expands and actually does push all of your organs out of the way. This right here, that's 50 hot dogs. Oh. Uh-oh. Oh. 2 more hot dogs to the record. Oh. Woo! 69! This is 69 hot dog buns, 69 hot dogs, and over 2 quarts of water. This is what it looks like inside the human body. 0 to 9 months pregnant in 10 minutes. Now, ingesting 69 hot dogs is equivalent to consuming over 20,000 calories. Theoretically, by slowly rationing out that many calories, a person could survive for about 4 months. I mean, it wouldn't exactly be a picnic, but it's possible.
It's speculated that his appetite was caused by hyperthyroidism, which can induce an extreme appetite, rapid weight loss, profuse sweating, heat intolerance, and fine hair, all of which are things that he had.
Makes sense.
Some others think that he may have had a damaged amygdala, because injuries to the amygdala in animals can induce polyphagia, which causes the same sort of insatiable hunger. Nothing that people have come up with really quite explain his cannibalistic binges, though, or the issues with his general physiology.
And also his behavior is sort of unexplained too. He almost seemed to take glee in eating large amounts of food in front of people. Like he didn't take it back to his place to snack away. He's like, I'm gonna eat this right in front of the generals. I'm gonna eat. I wonder if that was like the showman in him, since he was traveling with like show people and like sex workers and stuff like that throughout.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. What's your theory? When you settle in your mind, your personal opinion about what was going on with this guy, what do you think?
I think the hyperthyroidism does explain a lot, and I do think that some of the descriptions of his physical appearance were probably highly exaggerated after people had found out what he ate and how he ate it. And they probably just exaggerated his description a little bit to make him seem more scary.
I think that's probably possible too, especially I don't know if I bet writers of the time like leaned into sensationalism just like writers of today.
Purple prose was rampant. Purple prose was rampant in the 1700s. I mean, just look at Victor Hugo. I do think, I'm not entirely sure what caused the cannibalism, though. I think it's possible that his hunger just has been, like, dogging him for so long that it just warped his perception of what was okay to eat.
And like, when you're desperate, you can justify a lot of things. You can make those leaps of like, well, they're an animal, and I'm an animal, and animals eat animals all the time, and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for researching and like being a part of this. Like you're gonna be the first of hopefully a few like cases that are little interests of cult members, and you're the first cult member of Valhalla to come forward and present your own little case to the rest of the congregation.
I'm also interested in Mothman, but you guys already did that one.
If you want to BS about Mothman for a couple hours, and we can do a Patreon thing, I'd love to like discuss the little parts of that. So we can definitely plan something like that.
Yeah, his story is one of those ones that just kind of keeps escalating as it goes.
Alrighty, playing us out this episode from the artist's soundbite, spelled Soundbyte, and his song Speeding Towards an Imminent Demise. Enjoy, and see you in the after show. Well, I won't be seeing you, but my friend Corey wants to tell you about an upcoming project of his. See you next week.
Hey folks, I'm Corey, and I'm just going to steal the show here for a minute so I can tell you about my new project. I'm calling it The Mind of a Skeptical Leftist. It's the random musings, philosophical ramblings, critical analysis, and half-researched opinions of a former hardcore skeptic and anarchist who also is an overworked laborer, parent, and partner. I spent the last decade or longer in and around the skeptical and atheist communities, and rather than coming out the other side an alt-right, incel anti-feminist, I became an even more radicalized anarchist and supporter of those without power. In my new show, I'll talk about the various subjects that interest me, like, is there something wrong with ideological bubbles? Why is strength equated with masculinity so often? And what are the differences between anarchists and so-called anarcho-capitalists? I also plan to have some experts and friends come on the show to discuss the things they know about and to express their opinions about anything and everything. I hope you join me by subscribing at anchor.fm/skepticalleftist, as well as by following me on Facebook at The Mind of a Skeptical Leftist or on Twitter at Hardcore Skeptic. Thanks for listening. Hope to see you soon.
Alrighty, tune into Corey's new project if you need something enlightening to listen to. I can personally vouch for the man. That's it for OVPod this week. See you next week as we dive into a mysterious death and all the bullshit that has been spread around surrounding it. Have a good night.